In the quiet countryside of Eldermoor, nestled between rolling emerald hills and ancient forests, stood a grand yet modest manor known as Willowcrest Hall. Its grey stone walls had weathered countless storms and seasons, holding stories within that only the wind seemed to remember. The manor was home to a gentleman named Theodore Ashford, a widower whose warm smile and kind eyes betrayed the sorrow he carried deep within. Theodore's late wife, Ilora, had passed away when their only daughter, Isolde, was still a fragile child. Since then, Theodore devoted himself to raising Isolde in the peaceful embrace of the manor's gardens and the surrounding nature that Ilora had loved so dearly. Isolde Ashford was a curious and bright young woman of 16, her long chestnut hair often catching the sunlight as she wandered through the sprawling gardens. Though she had never met her mother, Ilora's presence lingered in every corner of Willowcrest, in the blooming lilacs by the porch, the ancient oak tree under which Ilora used to sit reading, and the small glass house where rare orchids flourished, nurtured by the stories her father told. Theodore's memories of Ilora were a bittersweet comfort. He would often sit by the fireplace with Isolde, recounting tales of Ilora's gentle spirit, her laughter like wind chimes on a summer's breeze, and her unwavering love for both family and nature. To Isolde, these stories were a bridge to a mother she wished she could know more intimately. Life at Willowcrest was serene yet solitary. The manor's distance from the neighboring village made social visits rare, and without Ilora to oversee such affairs, Theodore found it awkward to engage in the formalities expected of a gentleman of his standing. Thus, Isolde learned to entertain herself accompanied faithfully by her playful dog, Puck, whose antics brought joy and laughter to the halls. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves twirled to the ground, Theodore received unexpected news that would change the course of their lives. A letter arrived from a family acquaintance, Lady Cordelia Marwood, a recently widowed noblewoman of refined grace. Cordelia was moving to Eldermoor with her two daughters, Selene and Maris, hoping to start anew away from the city's relentless pace. Theodore was cautious yet hopeful. He invited Lady Marwood and her daughters to visit Willowcrest, hoping their presence would bring companionship to Isolde and ease his own growing loneliness. When Cordelia and her daughters arrived, the manor hummed with a new energy. Selene, the elder at 18, was poised and commanding, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Maris, 2 years younger, was vivacious and quick-witted but lacked the gentle refinement Isolde admired. The three girls' personalities clashed with Isolde's quiet and thoughtful nature, creating a subtle but growing tension. Despite this, Theodore encouraged harmony, believing that shared experiences and time would build bridges. Yet, the household soon found itself adapting to new rhythms. Rooms were rearranged, responsibilities shifted, and the once peaceful manor echoed with whispers of discontent and rivalry. Isolde struggled to find her place amidst these changes. The room she had cherished since childhood, with its window overlooking the flower garden her mother once tended, was claimed by Selene, who demanded the finest accommodations befitting her status. Reluctantly, Isolde retreated to a smaller chamber, determined to make it a haven despite the loss. Lady Marwood's expectations extended beyond mere comfort. She insisted on hiring a skilled maid to attend her daughters, believing that such attention was essential to their social prospects. Theodore, torn between tradition and practicality, promised to seek out the best help from the nearby town. As autumn deepened, Theodore prepared for an extended journey overseas, summoned by a trusted friend to discuss a promising investment opportunity. His departure left Isolde facing the manor's new dynamics alone, with Lady Marwood and her daughters asserting increasing influence over household affairs. Isolde found solace in the garden, where the whispers of the past mingled with the rustling leaves. She watched the bees dance among the blossoms, feeling a bittersweet connection to her mother's spirit. But beneath the calm, a storm was gathering, one of jealousy, secrets, and the challenge of forging a new family from fragments of old wounds. What lay ahead would test Isolde's strength and resolve, drawing her into a tale woven with love, loss, and the enduring power of memory. Theodore Ashford's departure left Willowcrest Hall quieter than ever, yet beneath the stillness, an undercurrent of unease began to stir. The manor, once filled with gentle laughter and warmth, now echoed with the soft murmur of whispered conversations and cautious glances. Isolde, though determined to remain composed, felt the weight of the shifting household pressing upon her. Lady Cordelia Marwood quickly settled into her role as the new matriarch, her sharp eyes overseeing every detail of the manor's daily life. Her daughters, Selene and Maris, wasted no time in making their presence felt, each in their own way. Selene, proud and ambitious, claimed the grandest room in the manor, the very chamber Isolde once called her own. She adorned it lavishly with silks and rare trinkets brought from the city, leaving no doubt that this was her domain now. Her presence was like a shadow stretching across the hallways, a constant reminder that the past was being replaced. Maris, less refined but equally determined, found amusement in stirring minor chaos. She laughed too loudly in the dining hall, spread gossip in the village when she ventured out, and delighted in the subtle ways she could unsettle Isolde. Their interactions were polite on the surface but fraught with unspoken rivalry. Despite the tension, Isolde found allies in unexpected places. Clara, the village maid who had served the Ashfords faithfully for years, remained a steady presence. With her gentle hands and knowing smile, Clara became Isolde's confidant, offering solace in the quiet moments of the day. One afternoon, while wandering through the old glass house where orchids bloomed under delicate glass, Isolde stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind a loose panel. Inside lay a small, dusty leather-bound journal, Illyra's handwriting delicate and flowing across the yellowed pages. The journal revealed Illyra's secret passion, an enchanted garden hidden deep within the manor grounds, tended in secret for those she loved most. The entries spoke of rare flowers with mystical properties, whispered legends of protection, and a mysterious guardian spirit said to watch over the land. Fueled by curiosity and longing, Isolde resolved to find this secret garden. She believed it would be a place where she could connect with her mother's memory and find the strength to face the changes swallowing Willowcrest. As she began her search, subtle signs hinted that the manor's new occupants were not as harmonious as they appeared. Late one evening, Isolde overheard a heated conversation between Cordelia and Selene, their voices laced with resentment and ambition. Words like inheritance, control, and betrayal floated through the air. Meanwhile, Maris discovered a tarnished silver locket buried beneath the rose bushes, a piece of jewelry that seemed familiar, stirring uneasy feelings in Isolde's heart. What secrets did it hold, and how was it connected to her mother's past? At the same time, Clara confided in Isolde that strange happenings had begun in the manor, flickering lights in empty rooms, soft footsteps when no one was there, and the scent of wildflowers wafting through corridors in the dead of night. Was the guardian spirit from Illyra's journal truly watching over Willowcrest? Or were darker forces at play, stirred by the new tensions and restless hearts? Isolde knew that discovering the truth behind these mysteries was more than a personal quest, it was a necessity for protecting the home she loved. As the manor settled into uneasy rhythms, Isolde's journey into the hidden garden and the secrets it held would unravel more than just the past. It would awaken long-forgotten powers, test loyalties, and challenge her to become the heart that could unite a fractured family. Days turned into weeks, and the atmosphere within Willowcrest Hall grew thicker with tension. Isolde's discovery of Illyra's journal had ignited a fire within her, a hunger to uncover the hidden garden and the secrets it held. Yet, with every passing day, the presence of Lady Cordelia and her daughters seemed to cast a darker shadow over the manor. One misty morning, Isolde slipped quietly from her room, clutching the worn journal close. Guided by Illyra's delicate sketches and cryptic notes, she navigated through winding hedges and neglected pathways, deeper into the estate's forgotten corners. Her heart pounded when she stumbled upon a rusted iron gate entwined with thorny vines. Behind it lay a tangled wilderness, vibrant yet wild, a secret Eden lost to time. As Isolde pushed open the creaking gate, a faint melody floated on the breeze, like a lullaby sung by the flowers themselves. In the center of the sanctuary stood an ancient stone fountain, carved with symbols Isolde had never seen before. Water trickled gently, shimmering with an ethereal glow that seemed almost alive. Kneeling by the fountain, Isolde's fingers brushed the surface, and suddenly, a wave of warmth spread through her body. Visions flashed before her eyes, a woman in flowing robes tending the garden, her laughter echoing across sun-dappled paths, a child running freely among blossoming roses, and a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of the woods. Shaken yet exhilarated, Isolde realized the garden was more than a physical place, it was a gateway to memories and mysteries intertwined with her family's fate. Back at the manor, Cordelia's impatience was growing. Selene had begun pushing for more control over the estate's affairs, hinting that Theodore's absence was an opportunity to reshape Willowcrest in their image. Maris, meanwhile, had started to charm the village folk, gathering whispers and secrets that could be turned to advantage. One evening, during a grand dinner, tensions exploded. Selene accused Isolde of neglecting her duties and questioned her right to remain in the manor. The accusation was met with cold silence, but the weight of unspoken threats hung heavily in the air. Isolde's allies were few, but Clara stood firmly by her side, defending the girl's honor with quiet dignity. Even Puck, sensing the hostility, growled low whenever Selene approached. Later that night, Isolde confided in Clara about the garden and the visions she had experienced. Clara's eyes widened in recognition, revealing that she, too, had heard village tales of a guardian spirit protecting the Ashford legacy. Meanwhile, Maris's discovery of the silver locket began to unravel a hidden thread. Inside was a faded portrait of a young woman resembling Illyra, but with strange markings on her wrist, symbols that matched those on the garden's fountain. Determined to uncover the truth, Isolde sought out an old village historian, Mr. Whitaker, whose knowledge of Elder Moor's legends was unparalleled. Under his guidance, she learned of an ancient pact made by her ancestors with a mysterious entity known as the Verdant Warden, a protector of life and nature, bound to the Ashford bloodline. But such power came at a price. The pact demanded vigilance and sacrifice, warning that the balance must never be broken or darkness would consume both land and kin. As Isolde grappled with the weight of her heritage, the manor's fractures deepened. Cordelia's ambitions threatened to unravel what little peace remained, and whispers of betrayal began to seep through the walls. With Theodore still absent, the fate of Willowcrest rested in Isolde's hands, a burden both daunting and vital. The hidden garden, the guardian spirit, and the tangled loyalties within her family converged into a destiny she could no longer evade. And so, beneath the watchful gaze of ancient trees and blooming roses, Isolde's true journey began, one that would test her courage, reveal dark secrets, and ultimately decide the future of all she held dear. The days following her visit to Mr. Whittaker left Isolde restless and contemplative. The weight of her newfound heritage, the ancient pact with the Verdant Warden, settled like a quiet storm inside her heart. She had always felt a connection to the garden, but now she understood that it was no mere place of beauty. It was a living testament to her family's legacy, a sacred trust handed down through generations. Back at Willowcrest Hall, the household's atmosphere thickened with unease. Theodore's prolonged absence left a void that Cordelia and her daughters sought to fill with increasing assertiveness. Their presence was no longer merely that of guests or new family members, they were carving a new order within the manor's walls, and Isolde felt herself increasingly sidelined. One morning, as the fog lingered low over the estate, Isolde found herself wandering through the village marketplace. The locals greeted her with polite nods, but their eyes often flickered to Cordelia and her daughters with a mix of curiosity and caution. The whispers of town gossip were impossible to ignore. "That Marwood family has big plans," Clara whispered, sidling close to Isolde as they passed a cluster of vendors. "Some say they're after more than just the manor." Isolde frowned. The idea of losing her home, the sanctuary she had cherished since childhood, was unbearable. She was determined to protect Willowcrest, but the means were unclear. Later that evening, an unexpected visitor arrived, a young man named Elias Hawthorne, a childhood friend of Theodore's and a scholar of local folklore. Elias had heard rumors of disturbances at Willowcrest and had come to offer his assistance. Elias's presence brought a fresh breeze into the stagnant manor. His sharp intellect and genuine kindness won over Clara and, slowly, Isolde's cautious heart. Together, they pored over Illyra's journal, cross-referencing the cryptic symbols with ancient texts and local legends. One passage in particular caught their attention, a warning that the Verdant Warden's power could be weakened if the pact was forgotten or disrespected, inviting a creeping darkness that sought to consume the life force of the land. Meanwhile, Cordelia's ambitions grew bolder. She began hosting lavish social gatherings in Theodore's absence, intent on establishing her family's influence within the county. Selene and Maris dazzled guests with charm and fashion, their smiles masking the undercurrents of manipulation. At one such gathering, Isolde was confronted by Selene, who pressed her about her intentions and hinted at secrets best left buried. The encounter left Isolde shaken but more resolved. She knew she could not let the manor fall into the hands of those who sought power over harmony. That night, strange occurrences unsettled the household. Windows rattled despite calm winds, and flickering shadows danced along the corridors. Puck barked incessantly, his fur bristling. Clara swore she heard soft singing carried on the breeze, the voice haunting yet familiar. Isolde returned to the garden, seeking solace and answers. As she knelt by the glowing fountain, the water shimmered brighter, revealing faint visions of her mother Illira entwined with the Verdant Warden, guiding and nurturing the land. A sudden chill swept over her, and a whisper, barely audible, spoke her name. It was a call, a summons to embrace her destiny and defend a legacy entrusted to her. The following days tested Isolde's resolve. She began to experience strange dreams, where the garden's blooms whispered secrets, and shadowy figures lurked at the edge of her vision. The boundary between the natural and the supernatural blurred. Elias became her guide, teaching her to read the signs and strengthen the bond with the Verdant Warden. Together, they sought to awaken the dormant powers within Willowcrest and prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. But time was running short. Cordelia's machinations grew more dangerous, alliances shifted, and the darkness lurking beyond the garden's edge began to seep into the manor's heart. Isolde realized that to protect her home, she would have to confront not only external threats but the fears and doubts within herself. The tides of change were upon Willowcrest, and the choices she made would echo through generations. The cool dawn light barely penetrated the thick canopy of ancient trees surrounding Willowcrest Hall, yet the manor was already stirring. Inside, Isolde awoke with a start, the remnants of a troubling dream clinging to her mind like a shadow she couldn't shake. In her dream, the Verdant Warden had appeared not as a benevolent guardian, but as a tempest of twisting vines and flickering eyes, warning her that darkness was no longer just a threat looming on the horizon. It had begun to breach the borders of her world. The garden's blossoms had turned black in the dream, and a deep sorrow had filled the air. As she gasped awake, Isolde felt the cold sweat of fear, but also the fire of determination. Meanwhile, at the village edge, whispers had spread of a stranger seen wandering near the manor's grounds at night. The villagers spoke of an enigmatic figure, cloaked and silent, whose presence coincided with strange lights and eerie sounds coming from Willowcrest. Isolde confided in Elias, who listened intently. These signs, he mused, suggest that forces beyond our understanding are converging here. The balance your family maintains may be in jeopardy. Their concern was not unfounded. Cordelia, sensing the shifting tides, had sent Selene on a secret mission to the city, tasked with finding an artifact rumored to grant control over nature's spirits, a relic that, in the wrong hands, could doom the land. Selene's departure was hushed but urgent, leaving Maris behind, who grew restless and unpredictable. With her increasing impatience, Maris began acting recklessly, sneaking into forbidden parts of the manor, meddling with old relics, and ignoring Cordelia's commands. One afternoon, Maris stumbled upon the manor's cellar, a labyrinth of cold stone corridors and forgotten rooms. There, hidden beneath a dusty tapestry, she discovered a sealed door etched with the same ancient symbols from Illira's journal. Driven by curiosity and a thirst for power, Maris broke the seal, unwittingly releasing a shadowy entity trapped within. A chill wind howled through the cellar as the darkness spread like ink, creeping unseen through the manor. Back above, Isolde's connection to the garden deepened. She began hearing whispers not just from the blooms, but from the earth itself. The Verdant Warden spoke through her dreams and moments of waking clarity, guiding her to prepare for the coming battle. With Elias's help, Isolde trained herself in the old ways, learning to listen to the language of leaves, to call on the strength of roots, and to weave protective wards around the manor. Clara, ever loyal, noticed the changes in Isolde and pledged to stand by her, even as the household grew more divided. The loyal dog Puck remained a steadfast protector, his keen senses alerting the family to dangers both mundane and magical. As Cordelia's grand schemes unfolded, the delicate threads holding Willowcrest together began to fray. Neighboring estates whispered of scandal, and old alliances were tested. Theodore's absence weighed heavier than ever, his return uncertain. In a moment of quiet reflection beneath the ancient oak, Isolde vowed to honor her mother's legacy and protect the home that had sheltered her. The secrets of the garden, the power of the Verdant Warden, and the bonds of family would all be tested in the storm to come. The gathering darkness was no longer just a threat, it was an impending reckoning. The days that followed the breaking of the ancient seal brought an unsettling chill to Willowcrest Hall. The manor's once comforting walls seemed to close in on its inhabitants, thick with unspoken fears and shadows that stretched longer with each passing night. Maris's reckless curiosity had unleashed a darkness that crept silently, like a poison seeped through the stone and soil. The shadowy entity known only in the oldest whispered legends as the Umbral Shade was a force of malice and despair, found long ago by Ellora's ancestors to protect the balance of nature and family. Isolde felt the change immediately. The garden's usual vibrancy dimmed, flowers wilted, and even the birds' songs became sparse and sorrowful. The Verdant Warden's voice, once a gentle murmur in her mind, now came in urgent whispers, warning of the growing threat. Determined to confront the darkness, Isolde and Elias delved into the manor's forgotten history, searching through dusty tomes and cryptic manuscripts in the vast library. There, hidden beneath a false panel, they uncovered an ancient ritual, a binding ceremony capable of resealing the Umbral Shade, but one requiring great courage and sacrifice. Meanwhile, Cordelia's influence over the household deepened. She played her cards with cold precision, using the growing tension to isolate Isolde. Selene's absence weighed heavily, but her letters hinted at success in her mission to acquire a powerful artifact from the city, a talisman that could sway the fate of Willowcrest. Maris, meanwhile, became increasingly erratic. Haunted by the entity she had freed, her moods shifted unpredictably from moments of eerie calm to bouts of wild anger. Clara, ever watchful, tried to protect Isolde from the chaos, but even she felt powerless against the growing darkness. One stormy evening, the manor's servants whispered of strange happenings, cold drafts in sealed rooms, reflections that did not match movements, and the faint scent of wildflowers turning sour. Puck's growls echoed through the halls as he sensed the malevolent presence lurking close. Isolde knew that time was running out. Gathering her courage, she prepared to perform the binding ritual, guided by the Verdant Warden's wisdom and Elias's steady support. As the night of the ritual approached, old secrets surfaced. Theodore's prolonged absence was revealed to be no mere business trip but a desperate quest to find a way to strengthen the family's ancient pact. His letters, hidden in the library, spoke of sacrifices made and dangers faced in distant lands. Isolde realized that the strength she sought was not only in ancient magic but in the unity of those she loved. She reached out to Clara and even, cautiously, to Maris, hoping to mend the fractures before the darkness consumed them all. The manor gathered under a heavy sky as Isolde began the ritual in the heart of the garden. The air thrummed with power as symbols of light and nature glowed against the stone fountain, and the Verdant Warden's presence filled the space with radiant energy. But the umbral shade was cunning and fierce. It fought to break free, unleashing shadows that clawed at Isolde's resolve and threatened to drown the garden in eternal night. With Elias's voice steadying her and Clara's protective presence nearby, Isolde summoned every ounce of strength and love she could muster. The bonds of family, memory, and nature intertwined in a brilliant surge of light, sealing the darkness once more. When dawn broke, Willowcrest breathed anew. The garden blossomed brighter than ever, the scent of wildflowers and fresh earth filling the air. The shadows had retreated for now. Yet Isolde knew this victory was but the beginning. The ties that bound her family, the legacy of the Verdant Warden, and the ambitions of those within the manor would all shape the trials yet to come. And somewhere in the distance, Theodore's journey pressed on, a race against time to protect all that he held dear. The warmth of dawn washed over Willowcrest Hall, casting light on a household still healing from the night's battle. The garden bloomed once more, vibrant and alive, but within the manor walls, tension simmered quietly beneath polite smiles. Isolde, though physically weary, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The binding ritual had strengthened her connection to the Verdant Warden, awakening dormant powers and a deeper understanding of her family's legacy. Yet, the true test was just beginning. Cordelia returned from Celene's mission with news cloaked in secrecy and triumph. The talisman from the city was now in their possession, a delicate amulet said to grant control over natural forces. Celene's eyes gleamed with ambition, and Maris's restless energy seemed to find new fuel. Isolde's allies were few but steadfast. Elias continued his research and training, revealing forgotten lore and teaching Isolde to harness her growing abilities. Clara remained a pillar of support, her loyalty unwavering despite the shifting tides. Amidst the undercurrents of power, an unexpected visitor arrived, Lady Evelyn Harrow, a distant relative of Theodore and a formidable noblewoman with her own designs on Willowcrest. Her arrival complicated the delicate balance, as she brought both political influence and veiled warnings. Evelyn's presence sparked uneasy conversations and tentative alliances. She revealed knowledge of an ancient rivalry tied to the Verdant Warden's pact, a shadow faction seeking to sever the bond and claim the land's power for themselves. As the household fractured into factions, Isolde found herself navigating a labyrinth of loyalties and betrayals. Cordelia's ambitions clashed with Evelyn's cryptic warnings, while Selene and Maris pursued their own goals, testing the bonds of sisterhood and family. One evening, a secret meeting convened in the manor's library. Isolde, Elias, Clara, and Evelyn formed an uneasy alliance, united by a common goal, to protect Willowcrest and unravel the threats both within and beyond. Plans were made to seek out ancient relics hidden across Elder Moor, believed to hold keys to strengthening the Verdant Warden's power. Each journey promised peril and revelation, testing courage and trust. Meanwhile, Cordelia and her daughters plotted to consolidate control, weaving webs of influence that stretched into the village and beyond. The manor's peace was fragile, threatened by ambitions and secrets lurking in every shadow. As storms gathered both outside and within, Isolde's journey grew ever more complex. The garden's whispers guided her steps, but the path ahead was uncertain. With alliances forged and fractures widening, the fate of Willowcrest balanced precariously, a delicate dance between light and darkness, loyalty and ambition, past and future. The halls of Willowcrest Hall hummed with restless energy as the days shortened and autumn's chill deepened. The uneasy alliance between Isolde, Elias, Clara, and Lady Evelyn marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with secrets waiting to surface and shadows yearning to consume the light. One evening, while poring over an ancient map in the flickering candlelight, Elias traced a route to a forgotten ruin deep within Eldermoor Forest, a place rumored to hold a relic called the Heartstone, said to amplify the Verdant Warden's power. The journey promised not only danger but answers to questions that had haunted Isolde for years. With Clara's steady presence and Evelyn's tactical mind, the small band prepared for their expedition. Yet, beneath their resolve lay unspoken fears of betrayal, of loss, and of what darkness they might awaken. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Cordelia's ambitions festered. Selene returned from the city, the talisman clutched tightly, her eyes burning with newfound resolve. Maris, restless and unpredictable, began whispering to unknown figures in the village, weaving webs of influence that threatened to unravel the fragile peace. Isolde's nights were plagued with haunting dreams, visions of her mother Illyra, the Verdant Warden, and the umbral shade locked in an eternal struggle. The line between past and present blurred, and whispers from the garden grew louder, urging her onward. The journey to the ruins tested their bonds. They faced treacherous terrain, cryptic riddles, and spectral guardians determined to bar their passage. Through each trial, Isolde's connection to the Verdant Warden deepened, revealing latent powers and a resilience she hadn't known she possessed. In the heart of the ruins, they discovered the Heartstone, a pulsating gem of radiant green light, entwined with ancient vines. As Isolde reached out, the stone's energy surged through her, flooding her with visions of the pack's origins and the sacrifices made to protect the land. But their triumph was short-lived. The umbral shade, sensing the surge of power, manifested in a terrifying form, intent on reclaiming what was lost. A fierce battle ensued, blending magic, willpower, and raw courage. Back at Willowcrest, the manor's walls seemed to breathe with tension. Cordelia's plans advanced, her daughters playing their parts with calculated precision. Rumors of alliances with shadowy figures in Eldermoor spread, hinting at a deeper conspiracy. As Isolde and her companions returned, the weight of their discovery settled upon them. The Heartstone was a beacon of hope but also a target. The true test of loyalty, strength, and sacrifice was yet to come. Under the watchful gaze of ancient oaks and fading stars, Isolde vowed to protect her family, her home, and the legacy woven into the very earth beneath their feet. The night air around Willowcrest Hall grew heavy, thick with an eerie stillness that unsettled even the oldest oaks. Since Isolde's return from the ruins with the Heartstone, the manor seemed caught between two realities: the familiar world she had known, and a shadowed realm that whispered just beyond sight. Isolde felt it first in her dreams of veil thinning, where past and present merged. Illyra appeared once more, her voice a haunting melody warning of a coming fracture. The Verdant Warden's presence, once a steady guide, now flickered like a candle caught in a tempest. At the manor, Cordelia's ambitions had transformed into a desperate quest for power. She summoned an enigmatic sorcerer from the city, a man shrouded in darkness, who promised to unlock the talisman's full potential. Selene and Maris, eager and restless, embraced the sorcerer's teachings, unaware of the dangerous price their choices might demand. Isolde's circle of trust tightened. Elias delved deeper into ancient lore, discovering forgotten rites to strengthen the Heartstone's bond. Clara, ever faithful, uncovered signs that the Umbral Shade's influence was spreading, warping the minds of those closest to the manor. One evening, as a silver moon cast pale light over the garden, Isolde encountered a spectral figure, neither friend nor foe, who revealed a hidden truth: the garden was a nexus point, a gateway, through which the boundaries of worlds weakened. The Umbral Shade sought to cross fully, to consume the living realm in darkness. Determined to protect Willowcrest, Isolde resolved to perform a forbidden ritual to reinforce the veil, a rite requiring sacrifice and courage beyond her years. The ritual demanded a journey into the Shadow Realm itself, to confront the source of the encroaching darkness. As Isolde prepared, tensions in the manor reached a breaking point. Cordelia's machinations sowed discord, alliances fractured, and secrets spilled into the open. Maris's reckless acts unleashed chaos, threatening to tear the family apart. In the village, whispers grew louder, tales of hauntings, disappearing livestock, and strange lights in the forest. The townsfolk's fear mounted, and some began to blame the Ashford family for the unnatural events. On the eve of the ritual, Isolde gathered her allies. Elias provided ancient charms, Clara offered unwavering support, and even Maris, shaken by recent events, hesitantly pledged her aid. Together, they crossed the threshold into the Shadow Realm, a twisted reflection of Eldermoor, a land of shadows and lost memories. There, Isolde faced visions of her fears and doubts, battles with shadow beasts, and the chilling presence of the Umbral Shade itself. Through strength, love, and sacrifice, Isolde bound the veil anew, restoring balance but not without cost. The Shadow Realm whispered of future trials, of sacrifices yet to come. Returning to Willowcrest, the manor was forever changed. Bonds were reforged, truths were revealed, and the family prepared for the storms ahead, knowing that the battle for their legacy had only just begun. The crisp morning air was tinged with the scent of burning leaves as Willowcrest Hall awoke to a world on the brink of transformation. The veil between worlds, though reforged by Isolde's courage, remained fragile, a thin membrane stretched taut by unseen forces. Isolde stood at the garden's edge, the Heartstone glowing faintly in her palm, a reminder of the power she now bore and the weight of her family's legacy. Yet, even as dawn broke, the shadows lingered, casting doubt, fear, and a relentless storm of challenges that threatened all she held dear. Back within the manor, tensions reached a fever pitch. Cordelia's true colors emerged, her hunger for control turning ruthless. She had formed a pact with the sorcerer who had taught Selene and Maris the dark arts, a deal promising dominance over Elder Muir's natural forces in exchange for a sacrifice yet unnamed. Selene, once poised and calculating, now bore an unsettling gleam in her eyes, wielding magic that bent light and shadow to her will. Maris, torn between loyalty and fear, grappled with the consequences of their choices as the entity they had unleashed whispered promises and threats alike. Isolde, sensing the growing danger, called upon her allies. Elias, delving deeper into forbidden knowledge, uncovered a prophecy, a trial by fire that would test the bonds of family and the strength of the Verdant Warden's legacy. Clara, steadfast as ever, prepared the manor's defenses and tended to the household's growing unease. One storm-laden night, the manor was besieged not by mortal foes, but by manifestations of the umbral shade's wrath. Shadows twisted through the corridors, extinguishing candles and stirring terror in hearts both young and old. Puck's protective growls echoed as Isolde stood at the heart of the chaos, channeling the garden's power to repel the darkness. Amidst the turmoil, Theodore returned. His journey had been fraught with peril and sacrifice, but he came bearing knowledge and a mysterious relic, a flame forged in the heart of a distant volcano, said to purify corruption and restore balance. Reunited, father and daughter forged a plan to confront Cordelia's dark pact and seal the umbral shade forever. The trial would demand courage, sacrifice, and a reckoning that would alter Willowcrest's fate forever. As the manor prepared for the coming battle, secrets long buried surfaced. Hidden alliances, forbidden loves, and betrayals intertwined, weaving a tapestry of conflict and hope. Isolde's heart was heavy yet resolute. The legacy of the Verdant Warden, the memory of Illyra, and the love of her family were her guiding flames in the gathering storm. The battle for Willowcrest had begun. The night sky above Willowcrest Hall was obscured by heavy clouds, reflecting the turmoil within its ancient walls. The manor, once a sanctuary of memories and gentle whispers, now stood at the precipice of war, both spiritual and mortal. Isolde Ashford stood resolute in the grand hall, the heartstone pulsing in her grasp like a heartbeat entwined with her own. Around her, Elias pored over ancient texts, seeking forgotten rites that might turn the tide against the darkness now threatening to engulf their home. Clara moved silently through the corridors, her watchful eyes missing nothing, guarding the household and its fragile peace. Theodore's arrival had brought hope, and with it, a mysterious relic, the Ember Heart Flame, said to possess the power to cleanse corruption. Yet, the true cost of wielding such power remained unknown, and the shadows lurking within the manor grew ever bolder. Cordelia Marwood's ambitions had mutated into something more dangerous. In secret, she had forged an unholy alliance with the umbral shade's dark essence, a pact that granted her daughters, Selene and Maris, terrifying new abilities but demanded sacrifices that would fracture their souls. Her desire for control blinded her to the destruction she would unleash. As the days dwindled toward the inevitable confrontation, Isolde's dreams grew darker and more vivid. Visions of her mother Illyra entwined with the Verdant Warden, pleading for balance and strength, haunted her nights. The garden's whispers became urgent calls to action. One afternoon, deep within the manor's library, Isolde uncovered a hidden chamber behind a revolving bookcase. Inside lay relics from her ancestors' armor etched with verdant symbols, weapons forged from ancient trees, and scrolls detailing a forgotten covenant to protect the land at all costs. With Elias's guidance, Isolde donned the ancestral armor, feeling the weight of generations upon her shoulders. The Verdant Warden's power surged through her veins, awakening a fierce protector ready to face the encroaching darkness. The manor itself seemed alive, ancient roots pulsating beneath the stone floors, responding to the call. The garden bloomed wildly, a sanctuary of life against the spreading shadow. But betrayal waited in the shadows. Maris, torn between her mother's ruthless will and her own awakening conscience, secretly sought Isolde, offering a fragile alliance forged from fear and hope. Selene, intoxicated by power, descended further into darkness, becoming a formidable adversary wielding shadow magic that twisted reality. As the final battle loomed, the families of Willowcrest faced their reckoning. Old wounds reopened, loyalties tested, and sacrifices demanded. Under the storm-ridden sky, with lightning illuminating the ancient oaks, Isolde led her allies into the garden, the heart of their legacy and the battlefield where light and shadow would clash for the fate of their world. The cries of the Verdant Warden echoed through the night, and the true power of the Ashford bloodline was unleashed. The storm that raged outside Willowcrest Hall mirrored the tumult within its walls. Lightning cracked through the sky, illuminating the battleground of the ancient garden where Isolde and her allies prepared for the final confrontation. Every leaf, every petal seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Isolde, clad in the ancestral armor, felt the weight of generations upon her. The heartstone glowed fiercely, a beacon of hope and power. Beside her stood Elias, Clara, and a hesitant yet determined Maris, her fragile alliance forged in the fire of necessity. Across the garden, Selene loomed, shrouded in shadow magic, her eyes cold and unyielding. Cordelia's presence was felt throughout the manor, a dark force manipulating the strings of fate. Her pact with the umbral shade had transformed her daughters into powerful but tormented beings, their souls teetering on the edge of darkness. The battle began with a clash of wills and magic. Selene's shadow tendrils twisted through the air, seeking to ensnare Isolde and her companions. But Isolde's bond with the Verdant Warden pulsed stronger than ever, weaving protective barriers from vines and light. Elias chanted ancient incantations, amplifying their defenses and unraveling Selene's dark spells. Clara moved swiftly, aiding Isolde and tending to wounds with practiced care. Maris, fighting her inner demons, wielded newfound abilities to shield her allies and counter the shadows. Amidst the chaos, the garden responded. Flowers bloomed in bursts of radiant color, roots surged upward to bind enemies, and the air thrummed with the power of life itself. The Verdant Warden's spirit manifested as a shimmering figure, guiding Isolde's hand and bolstering her courage. In a final, desperate move, Selene summoned a maelstrom of darkness, threatening to engulf the garden and all within. Isolde, drawing on every ounce of strength and love, called upon the ember-hard flame, a swirling blaze of purifying fire that clashed with the shadows in a dazzling display of light. The two forces collided, illuminating the night in a brilliant explosion that shook the very earth. When the light faded, Selene's shadow was vanquished, and the umbral shade was sealed once more within the depths of the manor. Cordelia, stripped of her power and consumed by regret, fled into the storm. Maris, freed from darkness's grasp, embraced her place among the Ashford family, ready to rebuild and heal. Theodore returned fully, his journey complete, to find his daughter standing strong, the garden restored, and a new legacy forged in fire and light. Together, the Ashfords vowed to protect the sacred bond, honor their ancestors, and nurture the balance between worlds for generations to come. Title: Willowcrest Legacy, the Verdant Warden's Oath. Description: In the quiet countryside of Eldermoor, the ancient Willowcrest Hall holds secrets that bind family, nature, and magic in a fragile balance. When young Isolde Ashford discovers her mother's hidden legacy and the sacred pact with the mysterious Verdant Warden, she is thrust into a battle between light and darkness. As shadows of ambition, betrayal, and supernatural forces gather within and beyond the manor's walls, Isolde must awaken her inner strength, forge uneasy alliances, and confront a creeping darkness that threatens to consume everything she loves. Willowcrest Legacy is an epic tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of memory, where the fate of a family and the land itself hinge on a timeless oath.